let's just jump right into number one. The first step that we have on how to start the conversation at your church is have completed the PD group cycle, if you will. So let's unpack this. What do we mean?
Yeah, it's in short, it's really just going through the process. So now we have the 101 process or the 101 series.
Yeah.
So if they go through that, then they launch, or not launch, but that person's going to go through the 101, go through 7 pillars, betrayal and beyond, unraveled, for men, or I don't know,
hope for men.
So they're going to go through that, and then maybe there's some follow-up, could be Genesis process, could be whatever the next step is. So roughly that first year, they're going through this, and then once they've gone through it, and more than likely they've gone through it at a different church or in an online group, then we have that conversation of what's next. And that's when we talk to them about going to have that conversation with whoever at their church, or pastor. But yeah, to get through the material is key.
Yeah.
You can't teach it if you don't know it.
Right.
Yeah, and just to be clear, this episode, we're kind of addressing a situation where you don't tend to have the staff on board.
Yep.
That you're a volunteer, you're just a member of a church, you attend somewhere, and you're like, man, my church needs this. Yeah. They have nothing. How can I help?
Right.
So we're trying to equip you to take that conversation back. And in this point, the idea of completing a group cycle, or at least getting close to completing a group cycle, I think is important also from the perspective of we can be quick to jump out of our healing and into helping other people. Right. And so we'll hear that from people like 3 weeks into group, they're like, this is great. And I think I'm going to take it to my church. I'm going to talk to my pastor. And it's like, okay, love the passion, hold on to that, but let's get you a little further down the road, because you may be in that situation, don't realize how raw you still are, how maybe you're not nearly as far down the road as you think you are. And if you go to a staff member, try to take it to your church, then I think they're going to right away see that too. It's like, this person's just barely starting their own recovery. We don't want them talking to other people yet. So really the greatest thing you can do is get some recovery under your belt. Yeah. Take some of those strides, focus on your health and recovery, and a time will come, usually that 9, 10, 11 month mark, that's like, man, I really am starting to live differently.
Yep.
And there's some humility about my life and my story that will really be effective in helping other people get on board. But if you just try to jump that gun, it's kind of too early, too soon, and people I think will maybe be a little fearful if you're ready to be taking that kind of a role at your church.
I had an old mentor of mine say, and I granted, I thought it was stupid when he said it. It makes total sense now. But he said that you can't lead someone somewhere you've never been before. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, well, that, whatever. I was young and in ministry. I was full of, I don't know, what I thought was the Holy Spirit, but it wasn't. But I think that that's true, that you can't take like what you guys are saying is you can't take someone somewhere you've never been. If you have not been living in health or in recovery or experienced what, let's say we take 7 pillars. If you do not know what pillars 6 and 7 are like, you can't lead someone well through 6 and 7. So you need to understand that part of you being able to even talk about this in a holistic way, you have to be able to experience the whole thing.
Yeah, and to kind of follow up with what Nick was saying, I've had this conversation with leaders who were gung-ho. They've had 2 months and they're in...
Which is great, by the way. Yeah, it's totally great.
It's awesome. They're in group and they've gone 2 months and they haven't acted out, and they go and they start their own group. Well, they're in group, leading a group. Now they're into pillar 2. They get to pillar 3 in their second or third month, and then they have a major relapse.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you can't teach what you don't know. Right. And pillar 2, you're just getting your feet wet. And then you really get into the hard stuff. Right. And then it's like, oh, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Had that conversation quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, and helping lead others, talking with your church, launching groups, all those things take time, focus, and attention, which they should. But your recovery takes time, focus, and attention. Yes. And it's just really, really hard to do both well. And so that's why, as much as possible, getting towards the end of your process before you really say, okay, Lord, am I ready? How could you use me to take this to my church? Can be really crucial. Yeah.